Welcome. Just wanted to make a short video today about God's will. Christ taught us to pray, "Thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven." And a lot of people want to know, how do I do God's will, or how do I know if something is God's will? Well, let's look at it from the other perspective. God's will be done. And you're either going with the flow or you're not. Now, why wouldn't you be going with the flow? Why wouldn't you be in line with God's will so that it's not even a question? In other words, you're just doing God's will. You live according to God's will. So, what is it that separates you from God's will? Well, you remember in the Garden of Eden, Adam was separated by what? First of all, by listening to another source, another authority, instead of Father. So that was a mistake. Now you look all around you, there are authorities everywhere, aren't they? Everywhere you go, there are authorities. Bureaucrats, educators, experts, everywhere. On television, on the internet, every move you make, you encounter some authority. Well, that's nice for them to be administrators. Okay, that's fine. To administer, things have to be administered. You know, the light bulbs on the street need to be replaced, and garbage needs to be collected, and streets need to be paved, and so on. But your authority is what? It's God. And how does He communicate with you? By way of intuition. You have a gift of intuition, which animals don't have. You had it when you were born, when you were a little child. You saw things. You took note of something. Maybe you didn't understand it. Maybe you puzzled over it. Maybe you didn't even puzzle, but you took note of something. Your intuition had you to take note of something, and somehow it was important for you to take note of it. And maybe you will later understood, maybe later it had some meaning, later, see what I mean? But that's your intuition. You saw a leaf. You saw the way the leaf twirls when it falls from the tree, for example. Things like that. And you noticed it. And when you were a little child, you also noticed when something wasn't quite right, when something wasn't fair, when something was unjust, when something wasn't true. You knew it. How did you know it? You didn't have to go to school. You hadn't even been to school yet. You knew it in your heart. That's your intuition. It's wordless. It's the way God communicates. Sure, He sends His prophets. We have the writings that are left from what some of the writers of, prophets wrote. We have that. But what does that do? All it does is confirm what you know in your heart. It testifies or bears witness to what you already know, or what you are given to see in that moment. You're given to see it, and then what you read there only it testifies or bears witness to it. Or what is there only serves as something to awaken you to your intuition. So you have that. So whenever you fall away from when you're not paying attention to your intuition, see, and you pay more attention to what others say, they make you doubt yourself. They make you feel like you're dumb and don't know, and they have the answer, and they want you to follow them. See? Now the other way, how else are you separated from your intuition? Well, when you make something too important. Make anything too important. Make too important what somebody thinks of you. You want to have them to have a good opinion of you, or think well of you. make some item that you want to buy too important. Make saying something to someone, or getting even with someone, or trying to get someone to do something. Make some goal too important, and immediately you're separated from God's will. In God's will, everything would unroll as it should. Doors would open. You would turn left instead of right. Things would arrange themselves. You wouldn't have to make a decision. You wouldn't have to set a goal. Your only goal is to do God's will. Your only goal is to be close to what you know in your heart so you can detect it. Live by it. See? When you make something else too important, immediately you forget. See, when you're rushing, when you make winning the game too important, what do? You forget about sportsmanship, comradeship, friendship. Could be any game. Could be a parlor game with cards or chess, or it could be a tennis match. It could be any kind of a game. Make it too important. You forget about what's really important. You see? Make your career too important. Getting ahead too important. You forget about what's truly important. Years later, you look back and said, I missed all those magic moments. My life went by, and all I did was go to work and think about work, and my kids hate me. My wife divorced me. See what I mean? So, now are you getting it? So those are ways, but there's another way I want you to become aware of that separates you from the inner flow. And the other way, it's more subtle. It's subtler. And it may be that it has to be given to you to realize it. But the other thing that separates you from God's will, from knowing God's will and doing God's will, is emotion. That's right. Or any reaction. Any reaction. A little bit of irritation. A little bit of anger. Any reaction separates you. Because you see, in fact, you're already separated. When you become angry, when you become a little bit angry, a little bit irritated, the traffic is moving a little slow, or somebody's not quite getting to the point, you find yourself becoming a little bit irritated. What that means is that you already fell. You've already fallen. Remember in the garden, Adam fell, paradise was lost. In that moment, you fell. You already fell. Why? Because emotion is animal. Emotion is animal. Animals don't have love, agape love, which is a special energy from the Creator. See, the person on the path, the child of God, the person who doesn't make anything too important, who doesn't resent other people, who doesn't react, the person who remains close to intuition, doesn't doubt themselves, that person doesn't need any emotion, doesn't experience emotion. As soon as you experience emotion, it means you've fallen into the animal. You've fallen from the spiritual to the animal. Because animals need emotion to move, don't they? Animals need some kind of emotion to move. So when you're emotional, you're fallen. So emotion separates you, and then it keeps you separate. See, once you fall, then you fall, and then it's like falling asleep. You fall asleep, and now you're asleep. You think, well, I want to stay awake, and I want to stay awake. But then once you fall asleep, you forget to stay awake. Once you fall into emotion, you get lost in it. You tend to get lost in it. And falling into emotion leads to what? To thinking. And then you fall into it. So there's another way that you fall. But I just want you to see that any little reaction, any little reaction means that you are separated to some extent. And so whether it's a big reaction or accumulation of little ones, they keep you separate. But then when you're separate, then what? You lose track. You forget what's true, what's good, what's reasonable, what's wise, what's fair, what's just, what's loving. Because you made something too important or because you reacted. So I just want you to see how subtle it is. God, knowing God's will and doing God's will is the easiest thing in the world. But in order to do it, you have to let go of emotions and reactions and little irritations and little judgments and goals. See? And there are other ways that you fall away from your intuition. Any alternative to your Creator, you see. An alternative to His energy, which is love. An alternative to His way of wanting, the way He wants you to know, which is intuition. In other words, turning to the alternative of knowledge. See, raw knowledge, book learning, cleverness, see, intellectual, and any reaction. God wants you to respond to Him. There was an old rock and roll song. It was something like, walk along the beach with someone new, have yourself a summer fling or two. Just remember I'm in love with you, so save your heart for me. Remember that one? You probably don't. It was a long time ago. But we should save our heart for. Remember? What's that old song? My heart belongs to Daddy? Well, that's where your heart belongs to Daddy. One lady had a t-shirt on that said, sorry, I'm taken. Your heart belongs to Daddy. You're already taken. So you can be friendly with people. See, you can get married. You can go to work. You can have recreation and do things with other people. But you save your heart for Daddy, for your Heavenly Father. And you save your emotions and your reactions and your strength. What does it say? To love your God with all your mind, with all your heart, with all your strength. See? You give all those reactions up and all those emotions up. And those goals that other people set for you up. And when you have no goal, you have no attitude, you have no emotion. See? Now you are poised to do God's will. So it's really very simple. So it's a process of letting go. Will you be able to let go on your own? No, you need God for that too. As long as you try, there's another way that keeps you separated from God. Trying to save yourself. Can't do it. See? So when you don't have any will, when you have no will other than to do God's will, then you are free of all these other things. You're free to do His will. Christ said, He said, take my yoke upon yourself. And He said, my yoke is not burdensome. See? God just has a few simple things. He doesn't want you to resent other people. He wants you to pay attention to your intuition. He wants you to remember Him. See? Remember Him. When you see a butterfly, just realize that God made the butterfly and say, wow, that's amazing. How did He do that? When you eat, you remember that He made the food and He blessed you. Each due day, when there's light, sunlight, and you have life, He gave it to you. You remember Him. See? Instead of forgetting Him, you remember Him. That's why Christ said, when you eat this bread or when you drink this wine, do it in remembrance of me. Because now what do? We eat to forget. We eat to forget Him, to forget obligation, to forget guilt for having lived a wrong life. to forget how wrong we are and temporarily feel great because we don't remember how wrong we are. So we eat to forget. We eat to deny. We drink to deny. We talk to deny. We work to deny. We do everything to deny. Deny what? To deny God. To deny the truth. To deny Him His moment. You keep yourself endlessly busy doing, texting, thinking, listening, eating, worrying, planning. So there's not even a millisecond for the light of truth to pierce your darkness. So a good start would be get the little meditation that I have, or especially the 4-part meditation is very good, or the free one. They're all good. Start practicing it. See, could be a very good start.